Hello, everybody. I know some of you, with some we even did projects together. My name is Elena Rovati. I'm part of the strategy team here at Ginetta as the lead strategist, and I have a background that is both in design and business, and that's a little bit what we do here as strategists. So we really bring the business perspective and the user perspective together, and we try to create value for both sides so that the digital product will eventually be successful in the market. Danny approached me and he was like, hey, would you like to do the Impasse talk today? I have a super topic for you. And I was like, okay, what's the topic? And then he was like, my question for you is how to solve the unsolvable challenge. And I was like, wow, that's a topic. And I was like, how would I even approach such a topic? And then coming from my very humanistic approach, I just thought, okay, I'll go word by word and try to see what I can do to kind of like answer this question. And the first part is the end. So I will start from the challenge, which I think is also the topic you're here for. You all wrote a case for today. So how do we think about challenges here at Ginetta? And basically, there are really three types of challenges that we think apply to most of the companies we work with. The first one is about getting the right idea. So at the very, very beginning of the funnel of digital product creation. The second one is about getting the idea right. So now that I know that I have a good business or a good product, like how do I make sure that it's well-designed, well-developed, scalable, efficient, and so on. And then the third one is once I have the other two set up, how do I make this idea scale? How do I get it to scale? And then we can double-click on each of these. And really, when it's about getting the right idea, what is even an idea? Like, what's the topic when you think about an idea? And sometimes I think we have some clients that have not so much clarity of what an idea should be, and we are here to help, of course. But most of the times, we are asked to do greenfield, new product or business creation. That's a lot of fun, of course, because the space is very open. But sometimes we do monetization strategies on digital channels that already go very well. Sometimes we think about new ways of engaging with customers. This happens a lot in B2B, actually. And like, how do you basically make sure that the way you interact with the customer is up to their expectations, and it also brings the number of projects that you want and brings back the value that they're looking for. And then many times we have also product portfolio extension when we're adding the first digital or the second digital product to an existing portfolio. Then once basically we have defined and validated one of these types of ideas, then it's really about like getting the idea right. So do I have the right scope for the budget and time that I'm allowed to use? Do I have the right collaboration set up internally and externally? Do I know how this should look like, how the user experience should be, how the information architecture is set up? Do I know how to make it work with the infrastructure that I have, or do I need to introduce a new infrastructure from an IT perspective? And also, what's around the digital product? Like, are my operations ready to sustain what I'm trying to achieve? And then once we have all of these set up, the remaining challenges are really about landing in the hands of your target user base. So do I reach them, and how do I make sure that they choose me instead of my competitors? And then once they're with me, how do I make sure they stay with me and they like staying with me, that they're active so that they are like constantly coming back and being happy about the way I set up the interactions with them, and eventually even became advocate for my product with others. So that's kind of like all the type of challenges that we receive here at Ginetta, but we never call them challenges. And I think that's super important. We actually call them opportunities. And that's, I think, a super important mind shift that sometimes when you work within your organization, it can really look challenging because of what we are going to look into in a second. But from an external point of view, most of the times is actually an opportunity to reach more users, to bring more value in the market, to have a bigger customer base. So they're actually good challenges to have, good problems to have. And that's why we like to speak about opportunities. Then we go into the unsolvable part, the very difficult part, I would say. And why do you find it unsolvable? What are the factors that make you think that? Why are you blocked or cannot move forward? And here we divided it in two parts. There are a lot of internal factors. I think most of the time customers come thinking that the biggest unsolvable part is on the external side, but then by working together, we found out is actually in the internal setup of the company. So change aversion, especially when it comes to digital, is very big. Also, when it comes, again, to B2B, like the way that, I don't know, sales processes were done until now are very well established. The market share is great, so why shall we change? And this is kind of like a lot of our clients, they need us also to do this change management actually as a project, really. Outdated technology that is very engraved in the way the company operates, that's also a tough one. And clear roles and responsibilities. This happens a lot also with new topics. For example, sustainability. Everybody knows there are some targets that the company needs to reach, and there is like a very nice sustainability report out there that explains how well the company is doing. And then you ask, okay, so who is responsible for this? Whom shall I go and knock the door and say, what are we doing in order to reach them? And he's like, oh, we don't really have it yet. It's like, okay, that's something that needs to be faced in order to move forward. Skill gaps. So we hear it a lot also when it comes to ourselves as a company. We need to expand now, for example, in generative AI for arts and design. That's something we're looking into on the engineering perspective, how to become a prompt engineer. Like these kind of roles, Martin is an expert here, that are coming up in the market. They're really interesting. It's like, can I actually introduce them in my company, or can I get them from external agencies? Budget and typing is a constant. That's why I put it at the bottom. And culture, and I will have an example about that later. And then from an external perspective, there are many, but we just here have some. So rapid technological changes. That could be, again, an opportunity. For some companies, what we notice is that they don't know on which technology they should bet. So especially if they have a very long project timeline, how do I know that in 10 years the technology I should bet on today will be the one that the market has chosen? That's quite challenging, in fact. Market uncertainty, also with geopolitical things happening. Competition is an interesting one because it could be challenging on both sides. Either the competition is moving very fast and you kind of need to run behind, or it's not moving at all. And then you're like, shall I be the pioneer and take the first step and all the risk associated, or shall I not move? So that creates sometimes either paralysis or a lot of panic within the company. And then the last two, where we are really experts, I think here, Ginetta, user behaviors, they constantly change, what was acceptable today is not acceptable maybe in a few years from now, and the expectations really on the features of the product. So if you have gone through the exercise of looking into them and crossed which ones you actually have, they're not anymore unsolvable, they're actually tangible. So, and that makes them solvable, indeed, right? So we are doing a little bit of a psychological way of looking at it today, because I think it really helps. And sometimes we also internally do this. So we say, okay, now that we did the scoping session with the client, what did we understand? What's the challenge? What are the factors that make it a challenge and not an opportunity for them? And then we come to the third point, which is how is it solved? And I have an example that I always use in a design thinking workshop that I do with Martin, but I think it fits very well also in this presentation, and it's Airbnb. So in 2009, the company was down to $200 per week as revenue, so not very good. And they spent all the time in coding the most scalable and great working, efficient platform they could have, so that they could handle kind of millions of list items across the globe. So the product was really ready to fly, but it was not taking off. And they asked themselves, so why not? And they were really but we have the best platform, it works really well, we have the map integrated, we have pictures integrated. And then they looked better at the pictures and also at the competitors. And if you look at this does it look like a place you would like to travel to when you're going to New York? And that's kind of like, finally, they thought, you actually need to put yourself in the shoes of the user and think it should not look dodgy, it should look very explainable, you should understand what's in this apartment that you're going to take, and in general, like, is it safe to go there? So the type of challenge that they had was a little bit into the design, because they developed it very well, but maybe they did not spend so much time thinking about the user experience, and also the operations, like how do I make sure that I have good pictures on my website, which is actually the most unscalable thing to do, right? And that made them have like some issues about the reach and conversion. But of course, if you would solve this, it would be a huge opportunity to reach even more of your target users. And actually, on the target user, there is also a funny thing to say, because this is called Airbnb, because they were thinking of air mattresses. So when they were students, they wanted to go to a conference in New York, and they didn't have any money, and they were like, I just need an air mattress to sleep on. I don't need anything anymore. That's what the name comes from. But in fact, that's their view on it, as if they are the users. But do everybody think that when they are going traveling? Maybe not. So if you want to reach like a break even with your business, you might want to think about also the other type of users. So for sure, the culture was for sure a good culture, but very tech-oriented, not at all user-centric. And that's why they missed on like these 2 points, the user behaviors and the expectations. But of course, they saw it, and they took the opportunity to improve. So what they did, they traveled to New York, and they just stayed with hosts, and they literally took all the pictures, and then it started to like move super fast, the website. So they really understood that if you are a traveler, you might not have enough money, but you're still a stylish person, you still want something to look cozy, comfortable, safe, and those are all things that the pictures should basically reflect. So the turning point was immersing themselves in the shoes of the users, and also to create an internal process of like iterations, like having an idea, testing it, developing it, testing it again, so really in an iterative way. So basically the 3 ways, the recipe for solving their challenge was really customer centricity, prioritization. So they first prioritized the tech part, and then they realized prioritizing the user experience was actually super important to scale, and then agile working. So instead of solving, we like to say seizing. So the challenge becomes an opportunity, unsolvable becomes tangible, and solve becomes seize, which basically turns this question, how to solve the unsolvable challenge, into how to seize the tangible opportunity, which is a much more powerful way of looking into your challenge today. Just for everybody of you, because I think this is nice, but how do I use it? We created a small template that everybody can take. And I think it's really nice if you think of your case today and maybe you kind of like write it down, then maybe it drives also the discussion into how to face some of the unsolvable factors that you identify. Cool? That was about it. Cool. Thank you.